It's Friday, March 20th. In the headlines, minimum wage to be increased this year. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness announces major reforms to fast-track infrastructure investment. In business news, Sandals International investing $200 million in 3 Jamaican resorts. Regionally, European activists arrive in Cuba with aid amid a deepening crisis. And in sports, Jamaican athletes making waves at World Athletics Indoor Championships in Poland. This is the weekend news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Jamaica's minimum wage will soon move to $17,000. That was one of several announcements from Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness as he made his contribution to the budget debate on Thursday.
Madam Speaker, last year we signaled our intention to continue the journey from a minimum wage to a livable wage, and we indicated that the next step would be to increase the minimum wage to $18,500. However, in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, many of our businesses are rebuilding, many households are still recovering, and the economy is now navigating yet again another external shock in terms of energy prices and shipping costs. In this context, the government believes it is important to strike the right balance by continuing to improve earnings of workers while recognizing the realities employers face. We therefore propose a measured increase in the minimum wage from $16,000 to $17,000 effective July 1, 2026. This does not represent a departure from our long-term policy objective. The government remains committed to transition from a minimum wage to a livable wage, and as economic conditions stabilize, we will continue the phased increase necessary to realize that vision of the Jamaican worker.
The minimum wage has been increased multiple times during Dr. Holness's tenure as Jamaica's Prime Minister, with notable adjustments in 2022, 2023, and 2024. The most recent hike before this announcement was to $16,000 on June 1, 2025. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says his administration is rolling out major reforms aimed at speeding up infrastructure development and attracting large-scale private investment. During his contribution to the 2026-2027 budget debate, Dr. Holness tabled legislation to establish the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA.
We'll have special powers to accelerate development approvals as well as procurement, enabling the execution of resilient infrastructure projects at a scale and speed this country has never seen before.
He also announced a complementary initiative dubbed the Facilitated Acceleration of Strategic Transformation, or FAST, aimed at boosting investment.
And we're looking at areas such as energy infrastructure, digital infrastructure and telecommunications, logistics, air and seaports, water, sewage and desalination, low-income housing and urban development, high-value tourism including wellness, medical and sports tourism, entertainment and the creative industries, STEM education and research, specialized healthcare, high-value agriculture and agro-processing, advanced manufacturing, and critical minerals, including rare earth elements.
The Prime Minister touted a new oversight body, the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee, will monitor implementation. It will be chaired by Peter Blair Henry.
A son of Jamaica, who is currently a senior fellow at Stanford University's Hoover Institution. He is a vice chair of the National Bureau of Economic Research, and I hear somebody say an academic, but listen to this part of it. A member of the boards of Citigroup and Nike, who has risen to the very pinnacle of international economics and public policy.
Meanwhile, a 50% reduction in transfer tax has been announced for the next 2 years to support redevelopment in hurricane-affected parishes, including Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. The state-run National Housing Trust will spend $50 billion on new developments across the island. During his contribution to the 2026-2027 budget debate, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness cited an additional $21 billion in subsidies under the External Financing Mortgage Program.
This includes approximately 10,700 units currently under construction, and you see them, those are telling you where they are all across Jamaica. Nearly 6,000 at contract award stage, and 11,500 in procurement and negotiations, and more than 11,600 in planning and design.
He says the initiative will support housing developments in several parishes, including St. Catherine, Trelawney, Manchester, Clarendon, Westmoreland, St. Thomas, St. Mary, and Kingston. As at the end of January, the NHD is managing more than 41,000 housing solutions at different stages of development. The Tax Administration Jamaica, TAJ, has made a major upgrade in its digital tax system, marking another step in the government's push to modernize revenue collection. On March 12, they rolled out the Revenue Administration Information System Upgrade Project. This will see TAJ moving from its current GenTax version 10 platform to the more advanced Core 26 system. The upgrade, being done in partnership with Fast Enterprises, is scheduled for completion by March 2027 and aims to improve efficiency, security, and overall service delivery to taxpayers. Officials say the new system will support faster processing, better data management, and a more user-friendly experience. Among the new features are enhanced customer service tools, including appointment scheduling, improved compliance monitoring, stronger security systems, and expanded online services. TAJ says the transition will be carefully managed to ensure minimal disruption as it continues to expand digital access and improve ease of doing business in Jamaica. Kingston is being positioned as a global hub for spoken word as Jamaica recognizes Kingston Poetry Week. Organizers DIGI says the 7-day event is aimed at transforming poetry into a major force within Jamaica's creative industry. Founder and Managing Director Casey Garvey describes the initiative as a cultural shift, moving poetry beyond a niche art form into a dynamic and commercially viable space. She was a guest on PBCJ's White Matters.
I think that while everybody enjoys poetry, because almost everyone I introduce myself to immediately says that, they used to write poetry or they like reading this, nobody sees it as anything beyond a hobby, which is unfortunate because every other art form is seen as more than just a hobby.
Is that why you founded DIGI?
That's exactly why I started DIGI. I really want to bridge that gap. I believe that if something can be valued, something can be paid for.
Ms. Garvey adds that the event is redefining how poetry is experienced, bringing a more energetic and engaging approach to audiences. She says the goal is to establish Jamaican spoken word as a powerful and exportable cultural product. Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. Sandals Resorts announced a US $200 million investment in 3 of its Jamaican resorts: Sandals Montego Bay, Sandals Royal Caribbean, and Sandals South Coast. Following Hurricane Melissa last fall, Sandals Resorts reopened 5 of its 8 Jamaica properties in December, with Sandals Montego Bay, Sandals Royal Caribbean, and Sandals South Coast remaining closed for assessment. As a result, Sandals South Coast will reopen on November 18, 2026, followed by both Sandals Royal Caribbean and Sandals Montego Bay on December 18, 2026. This reimagining of the properties will unfold across many aspects of the guest experience, from striking new arrival moments overlooking the Caribbean Sea to new accommodation categories, redesigned pools, and refreshed lounge and social spaces. Culinary offerings will also expand with the introduction of new dining concepts and bar experiences across each resort. The Financial Services Commission, FSC, says there were 17 registered insurance companies in the country as at the end of September last year. The Commission revealed that these included 6 life insurance companies and 11 general insurance companies. The Financial Services Commission is reporting that for the life insurance sector, profits before taxes rose by 29% for the 9-month period ending September 30, 2025. The total assets of the sector climbed by 9.5%, or 53 billion Jamaican dollars to 614 billion Jamaican dollars in September of last year when compared with September of 2024. The value of the assets invested by the sector in general rose by 6.7%. For the trading period of March 19, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Woodcats International Limited with 17,780,637 units, representing 49.03% of market sales activities. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 2,695,694 units, representing 7.43% of market sales activities. Wigton Energy Limited shares with 2,361,727 units, representing 6.51% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in distribution, investment, and transportation plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for March 19, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $158.66 and buying at $156.60. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gain supported by $5.44 transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $111.39 and was bought for $116.83. For the British pound, continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $1.57 in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $210.96 and was bought for $212.53. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, a strong credit report is a critical financial tool during periods of rising prices and economic uncertainty, as it directly impacts your ability to access affordable capital and maintain flexibility. By lowering borrowing costs and expanding financing options, good credit enables individuals to manage cash flow effectively while positioning themselves to invest in income-generating assets. Rather than being used only for consumption, credit, when managed with discipline, can support long-term financial stability and growth. In our funded and focused journey, on the path to raising funds and earning more money for your business, compliance is one of the least fun but most important aspects of business life, and artificial intelligence can be of great assistance. And the truth is that compliance is the part of business that most entrepreneurs ignore until it's too late. A lapsed business registration, missing tax filing, or incomplete corporate structure can disqualify you from a grant, a loan, or government contract instantly. In the space of artificial intelligence, Claude.ai can help you build a compliance calendar specific to your business type and jurisdiction, whether Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, etc. It can draft letters to the company's office or tax administration office. It can understand what documentation banks and grant bodies actually require and prepare you for audits by reviewing your records and identifying gaps before someone else does. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital markets and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
That was Denise Williams, who just brought us the business report. In regional news, we begin with the latest from Cuba, as an international humanitarian effort is underway in Havana. Activists arrived with aid to support the crisis-hit Caribbean nation. A delegation of roughly 100 European activists have arrived with supplies to be distributed to hospitals across Cuba. The effort forms part of the Nuestra America convoy, a global movement delivering humanitarian aid by air, land, and sea. Organizers say more than 20 tons of food, medicine, and supplies are expected to reach the island as part of the mission. Cuba is currently facing one of its worst economic crises in decades, worsened by fuel shortages following the suspension of oil shipments from Venezuela and ongoing U.S. sanctions. Additional aid is expected in the coming days, including shipments from Chile and a group traveling from Miami with medical supplies for clinics and hospitals. In Trinidad and Tobago, early detection, timely intervention, and greater inclusion for young people living with disabilities took center stage at the 15th Annual World Down Syndrome Day conference on Thursday. Stakeholders gathered to explore legislative and education reforms aimed at strengthening inclusive systems and improving outcomes for children across the region.
As we gather together, we will continue to break barriers, open doors, influence policy, and create a society where every person is valued, included, and empowered. Because when we stand together, we are stronger. Together we are seen, and together we are heard.
Advocates and policymakers gathered at the Hyatt Regency Ballroom on Thursday to commemorate World Down Syndrome Day under the theme Standing Together Against Loneliness. This year's conference focused on advancing inclusion through legislative and academic reformation. Minister of Education Dr. Michael Dowlath said a revitalized focus has been placed on neurodevelopmental screening within the education system, allowing the ministry to move from action to readiness and from delay to deliberate support, ensuring that no child is left behind.
By looking to expand screening initiatives, we are working to ensure that no child enters our school system unseen, misunderstood, or unsupported. We are equipping educators and specialists with the tools to recognize diverse developmental pathways early and to respond with better precision and care. We are restructuring our schools, student support services.
Dr. Dowlat added that the ministry will also be tailoring the academic curriculum to cater to diverse learning needs.
Adapting our curricula to be more inclusive, more flexible, and more responsive to different learning needs. This includes differentiated instruction strategies, multimodal teaching approaches, and the integration of support mechanisms that allow students with Down syndrome and other neurodevelopmental differences to thrive, not on the margins, but at the center of the learning experience.
President Christine Kangaloo reminded the audience about the importance of inclusion in every aspect of society.
When I speak here of inclusion, I am not speaking of surface inclusion. I am speaking about something far deeper. I am speaking of a society that through the work of organizations like yours comes to recognize that it is not enough for persons with Down syndrome merely to be present, but that they must be participants, fully included in the everyday activities of everyday life, in our schools, our workplaces, our places of worship, our communities, and our friendships.
The annual event, hosted by the Down Syndrome Family Network, not only seeks to amend policy decisions, inclusivity, and academic reformation to better address the needs of persons with disabilities, but is also aimed to ensure that individuals living with Down syndrome are given a seat at the table to actively contribute to the decision-making process.
Prime Minister John Briceño is addressing growing questions about Belize's relationship with Cuba amid uncertainty surrounding the future of the Cuban Medical Brigade. Speaking during a media engagement, the Prime Minister acknowledged ongoing negotiations and reaffirmed the country's gratitude for the critical support Cuban doctors have provided to the healthcare system.
Belize's long-standing partnership with Cuba is facing a delicate moment tonight as Prime Minister John Briceño navigates sensitive negotiations over the future of the Cuban Medical Brigade, a team of doctors and specialists who have supported the country's healthcare systems for decades. With several Latin American countries scaling back their agreements amid U.S. pressure, Belize has remained cautious but grateful, acknowledging the brigade's crucial role in rural and specialty care. This evening, PM Briceño responded to questions about the present state of affairs between Belize and Cuba.
As to the Cuban Brigade, you know, we feel very strongly the Cuban Brigade. We are very grateful for the tremendous work that they have done, and that they are in areas where we don't want to be, some of our doctors, and also they have specialties that we don't have. We are in some delicate negotiations both with the Americans and hopefully then with the Cubans to see if we could find a hybrid to be able to keep as many as possible of the Cuban doctors here. But as you know, we are just a speck in a big pond, and then we have our big brothers in up north that they don't care about anything. They just say, you do it our way, or then we are going to deal with you. And now just imagine, we said to hell with you, we are with Cuba, we are raise a flag, and we this and that, and then they say we are cancel all the visas of Belizeans. You know, I'll be the first one to jump on my back. True or false? True or false? Be honest. Be honest. No. We'll be the first one to jump off we back that we're wrong with you, we lose we visa, we can go to the United States.
Still, Briceño says the government must strengthen Belize's own medical workforce, even as Cuba's worsening humanitarian crisis and regional political shifts raise new questions about what comes next. We'll have more from a one-on-one with PM Briceño elsewhere in the news.
Still in Belize, the Caribbean is stepping up efforts to protect its creativity and to turn it into economic opportunity, as regional leaders and European Union officials launch the next phase of a major intellectual property initiative. Discussions this week are focused on strengthening IP systems to boost global recognition for Caribbean products, support small entrepreneurs, and unlock greater economic value from the region's cultural assets.
Belize is taking center stage this week as the Caribbean rallies around one big goal: protecting the region's creativity and turning it into real economic power. Leaders and EU officials are here launching the next phase of the Caripi project. And over the past 3 days, they've been digging into how stronger intellectual property systems can help local products shine on the world stage and put more money into the pockets of small entrepreneurs. From safeguarding cultural heritage to giving iconic items like St. Lucia's rum and Trinidad and Tobago's steel pan international recognition. The discussion point to one thing: IP isn't just paperwork, it's a pathway to growth.
The aim of this project is basically to assist CARIFORUM countries in modernizing and harmonizing their intellectual property system. So this 3 days workshop is basically to launch the second phase of the project. The first phase started off in 2019. It lasted for 4 years. And so this second phase will started April 2025 and it will run for 48 months, which is another 4 years. And so the purpose of this 3 days workshop is to launch that event, as well as to hold a GI mentorship, to launch a GI mentorship program where our producers here in Belize will have the opportunity to network as well as learn more about geographical indication. As you may be aware, we have a draft geographical indication bill that is about to go to cabinet for approval and pass into law. And so geographical indication will eventually be an intellectual property right that can be protected in Belize. And then we have the final day, which is day 3, and that will focus on the international intellectual property system. So the treaties that we signed on to, specifically the Madrid system, the Lisbon Agreement, as well as the Hague Agreement.
In sports, we lead with football. FIFA has announced a major policy shift aimed at increasing the number of women in coaching roles in global football. The governing body says all teams competing in its women's tournaments will now be required to include female coaches on the bench. Under the new regulations, each team must have at least 2 female staff members, with 1 serving in a leadership role as either head coach or assistant coach. The rule will take effect in upcoming competitions, including the Under-17 and Under-20 Women's World Cups, as well as the Women's Champions Cup. FIFA says the move is part of a long-term strategy to boost female representation in coaching worldwide. Jamaica has the opportunity to claim its first medal on day 1 of the 2026 World Athletics Indoor Championships, which kicks off today in Poland. The opening day features 3 finals, with Jamaica poised to contend strongly in each. Medals will be decided in the men's 60 meters, the men's triple jump, and the women's high jump. And that's it for the weekend news. Pleasant viewing.